What I want for you to avoid is taking an opportunity that is not a fit because you didn't do this process, because you didn't validate it, because you didn't look inward. The more focused that you are, the easier your job search is, because simply put, you cannot achieve a goal unless you know what it is. Welcome back to the Career Diet Podcast. Today, I thought we'd do something a little bit different. I actually think maybe this will be our new series where I answer your questions. Specifically, I have noticed that I tend to get similar questions, whether it's on Instagram, on LinkedIn, during live events that we host, or during our one-on-one free career strategy sessions. And today we will be talking about career clarity. Now, before we begin, I want to remind you that next week, December 10th and 11th, is our last live 150K plus job search sprint of the year. It's a live 3-part event where you get to connect with my team one-on-one for a free career strategy session. Then we will meet for a group hot seat coaching where you will have an opportunity to ask questions just like these ones that we'll be talking about today on the live to me, and be in the hot seat where we will really dive into exactly what you are doing and where you might be getting stuck and what to do instead. And then the final day of the sprint, part 3, that is on December 11th, is where we will meet for a 60-minute masterclass. That's where we'll do an assessment together to see exactly where you're getting stuck in your job search. And you will probably discover is that where you think you're getting stuck is probably only one part of the whole system that might need an upgrade in your case. So you'll walk away knowing exactly what's not working in your job search, where you're getting stuck, and how to get unstuck step by step by step. To join us, submit an application. We'll include it in the show notes. It's free to join, but it is application only because we want to make sure that everyone who is joining is there because you're actively job searching, you're ready to take action, you're ready to learn, you're ready to get coached, you are going for those 150K, 200K roles. So if that resonates and you want that new role in Q1, make sure to apply so that you can start making changes right now before everything really gets hot and picks up in January so that you are ready. So once again, apply for our 150K plus job search sprint. Details are in the show notes. And now let's dive into the episode. All right, so let's dive into the episode. The question that I want to start today with has to do with career clarity, and specifically how to find target companies. This person asked, what about companies that I've never heard of? My last job was with a company that I would never have discovered on my own because a recruiter found me and it was my dream role and dream company. For context, when I talk about your focus in job search and what kind of companies and roles you should be spending your time and effort on and focusing on, I always talk about getting crystal clear on exactly what you're targeting. So rather than scrolling on LinkedIn and seeing what's posted and seeing, well, this can be it, maybe I'll apply, you first get crystal clear on the companies, the roles, the industry, and only then you begin your job search by targeting those companies and those roles. Why? Because the more focused that you are, the easier your job search is. Because simply put, you cannot achieve a goal unless you know what it is. So if your goal is a role or a role with a few parameters, that's still quite broad. So the first thing that we do with my clients is we get very clear on what is it that is right for them. And I'll give you an example. We had a client start with us, I believe a couple of weeks ago. Her name is Blair. And when she started, she said, well, I actually have 3 interviews right now. And the first question that I asked her was, well, are any of these roles the type of roles that you're so excited about, you really, really want them? Because if so, we are going to focus on interview prep so that you are going to nail those interviews. And to that, she said, well, actually, No, not really, but I've always just been taking these interviews because I can't really afford to be picky. And what was interesting is that I told her, let's spend a little bit of time on getting clear on what is right for you. And that's exactly what she did. And what she posted as a win later that week was that she actually decided to say no to those opportunities because she realized, well, she knew that they were not right for her, but she needed to put it all down on paper and to get crystal clear on what is it that's actually right for her. Because now that she has this clarity, what's going to happen is her networking will get a lot easier because she's targeting now very specific people and not everyone on the internet. Her brand will be very, very focused because, again, she's focused with what is it that she is looking for. So now anyone who lands on her LinkedIn profile, anyone that speaks to her, they know exactly that she is that right professional for the role that she wants, rather than her trying to mold herself into every role that comes her way. So let's get back to the question. How do you find those target companies if you're not sure what they are? And with my clients in the Start Canada coaching experience, we go through a full process of building your dream job prototype. So we first look inward for you to understand what is it that's right for you, what kind of skills you want to be using, what kind of skills you enjoy, what kind of skills you have, and let's rank those skills in terms of which ones are your favorite. Let's look at what you're good at. And by the way, typically what you're good at is right there with what you enjoy doing. We look at what you value, what's important to you. That was part of saying no for Blair because she knew that a couple of those roles she was interviewing for did not at all align with what she believed in. We look at what is it that you want for your life to look like in the next 5 years, maybe 10 years, and what kind of career is going to support this life, not the other way around. So we always start by building this dream job prototype. And that happens by looking inward. But then we take this dream job prototype and then we research and test and validate. So research is exactly the part that you're talking about here, right? So how do I find those target companies? Well, first, let's get clear on what type of companies we're looking for, what type of roles we're looking for, what type of skills, what type of manager, team, product. So we'll get really crystal clear there first. And then we're going to research and find what those companies and roles are. And then we're going to actually talk to real humans in those companies to see, wait, is this actually something that aligns with my prototype? Or it's actually just something that sounds great in my head, but when I talk to real humans, this is not a fit. So specifically, let's dig a little bit deeper to understand how do you find those companies once you have that clarity on what type of roles and skills and team and manager and types of industry and product once you already have all of that. Well, typically what will happen is when my clients talk about building career up or building career down. So building career down means that you know the specific companies that you're after. So for example, there is maybe a cause that you believe in or a specific, combination of, let's say it's tech and it's travel. So maybe it's specifically Airbnb and you don't know exactly what you want to do at Airbnb, but you know that that's the company. So that means you're building career down. So, at the top, this is the company, this is the industry, but where you fit in, we kind of going to fill it out later. And we're going to find that out by doing that research and learning more about what actually exists and what's possible within that company. Building career up means that you know what type of skills you love, you enjoy using, and you want to continue using. Maybe it can also look like the function. So it can be marketing is a function or accounting is a function. So you know the function, but you don't really know kind of where that would fit in terms of company and in terms of industry. So when you think down, up, right? So at the top, we have industry, company, then within company, we have functions, then within functions, we have different sub-functions. So let's say within marketing, you have content marketing, you have digital marketing, etc., right? And then within that, you also have specific skills. So, realistically, for most people, when they look through this, they don't just have the company or they don't just have the skills. They kind of have a mixture. So, they might have a company or two at the top of this kind of hierarchy. Maybe they have a couple of companies at the top that they want to explore, but those are just a couple and they're not really married to the idea that it has to be those companies. It can be, but they're also open to exploring. And then, so they have at the top a couple of those companies, maybe they have function, maybe they have skills. So some of that hierarchy is filled out and some of it is still open. So for most people, that will be the case. So where do you now find those companies? Well, there is no science to it. There's an art to it. And I'll give you some ideas of how you can do it and how our clients do it. But something that I also remind my clients here is that it's not just the one and only option that you're looking for, that there are many directions and many opportunities that you can take here that actually will be a great fit for you and actually will fit that dream job prototype, will fit where you want your career and your life to go. So this is just for you to not put pressure on yourself that you need to find the one and only option that's a perfect fit. In reality, there are multiple options, probably many options that are a good fit. You just need to find one of, and that makes this research a lot easier. So what do you do here? So in terms of research, as I said, it's a bit of an art and it does take a little bit of Googling and researching and LinkedIn sleuthing. So an idea for you, if you know, okay, these are some of the responsibilities I want to have, these are some of the skills I want to be using, these are some of the key pieces of my job that I still want to have in my job. So for example, I want it to be client facing. And I'm not really sure where and what that is, but I want it to be client facing. So client, for example, will be one of your keywords, right? Maybe with that, you also know function, and maybe function here is sales, right? But you also don't know, okay, well, but which company and which industry, and sales are very different, right? So what you know already is what you need to start using as your keywords when you're doing your research on LinkedIn. But you're not necessarily looking for open roles, but rather you're looking at humans, you're looking at people to find people in roles that seem interesting to you. And this way, you will start discovering people in roles and companies that you didn't even know existed. And by the way, if you know my story, I pivoted from working in the accounting world all the way to consumer goods and selling private collections to Nordstrom and Anthropologie and Urban Outfitters. And I found this type of opportunity by doing exactly that because I knew the type of skills I wanted to be using, but I didn't know where that role existed. So I started looking for people using the skills and doing the type of things that I wanted to be doing. So that allowed me to start finding companies that I didn't know existed, or functions or roles that I didn't know existed. But I didn't just stop there. I actually went ahead and reached out to those people and talked to them to understand what is it that they do. From there, you also start discovering not just the companies, but you can also find their competitors. Another way to do it here is to look at open roles. Now, you're doing it more from a research standpoint rather than from, hey, I have to apply here. So same idea where you're using the keywords of what you already know in terms of responsibilities, in terms of skills, in terms of maybe function, in terms of maybe industry, in terms of type of product or subject matter. So I interviewed a client last week who recently got an offer and he really wanted non-for-profit. So for him, it would have been non-for-profit as well. So using the keywords of what you already know, looking for open roles to, again, understand what actually exists so that you can start finding types of roles that you maybe didn't know existed, functions you maybe didn't know existed, and companies you didn't know existed, again, so that you can use that to do more research and to find more companies and more people to talk to research and validate. Now, I know this sounds potentially like a lot of different steps, but what I'm describing you can find within 30 minutes. And then if you spend an hour, you will have a really robust list that you can start with in terms of your research and validation. And then what happens when you talk to real humans, very quickly you either feel, oh my goodness, this is so exciting, this is so cool, I definitely need to look into this more. Or it will go the other way where you feel like, this was a mistake. This is a no, I'm moving on. But oftentimes through those conversations, you discover new roles that you didn't know existed, again, new functions and new companies. So while it sounds like quite a process, what I want for you to avoid is taking an opportunity, yet again, that is not a fit because you didn't do this process, because you didn't validate it, because you didn't look inward. And our clients do it really within a couple of weeks. So what is a couple of weeks compared to the years of you staying in a role that you don't enjoy? All right. Well, friends, we're going to wrap up this episode. I would love to continue this series, and maybe what we can even do is to figure out a way for you to submit questions so that we can have every few episodes, we can be answering your specific questions. I have quite a few more episodes just like this already planned where we will be diving into your networking questions and interview questions. And you can, of course, just message me on LinkedIn or Instagram and say, hey, I have a question for the podcast. All right, that is it for today's episode. I will see you very soon.